we talk about it as being a results business, and you have to acknowledge that, and it is. But I think if you have to grow anything and develop anything, you have to see that there's a process, there's a performance element that has to continue to improve, because that's ultimately how I think you can get long-term results and sustainable long-term results that are maybe better than what you think you can get.
People have always talked, Graham, about your style of play. We heard Pep Guardiola a couple of weeks ago talking about you as the best English coach out there. I'm not sure he'd say that anymore after your little tangle the other night, but you get the point.
Yes, I get the point. Well, the thing about style of play is no one's style is any better or any worse than anybody else's. You know, that's the beauty of football. I always say that. And everyone's got a right to play how they want to play. And I've worked 15 years pretty much to play the way that I think I want to play. And then it's about making that work. Like I said, it fitted with what Swansea wanted. Swansea wanted that style, as did Östersunds. So it's not like I took over a different style of team that had been really successful and changed it with my style that made it worse. It was part of the remit in terms of stylistically we had a fit. But then you have to be humble enough to know and to say that styles don't win you games. You've got to make them work, and you've got to get people to believe in it, and you've got to explain why it works or how it works and how they fit into it. That's the challenge, I guess.
Different then. I mean, you didn't realise when you went into Swansea, I'm guessing, that it was just going to be a one-year project in effect. But Brighton came calling, and this was a very different situation because you're going into a club which already has a lot of structures in place. So how different was that as a challenge?
Well, it was part of the attraction, I would say, because in Swansea there was a lot of instability above me, and it was particularly challenging. So I just felt that really I was impressed with Tony Bloom as a chairman, a local guy, but a very intelligent man that looked at football very objectively. So I felt that you've got the chance to work as a coach. You know, as we know, results can go up and down, and when you're Brighton in the Premier League, with the greatest respect, you're going to lose more than you win. So you have to stay on a path. You have to be calm. You have to understand the process. And I felt that they would give us that opportunity, which has proven right. But it was still a challenge because you're trying to change a playing style in the most competitive league in the world, and that isn't so easy.
We look on the outside and look at results week by week. Runs of form, ultimately end of the season league table. Do you and the people working with you at Brighton judge progress in a different way?
I wouldn't say a different way. I think you've got to look at those, of course, because we know that's the final bit. That's the most important bit. But I think sometimes in football you can get results by not doing too much, and sometimes you can get results that are negative when you deserve a little bit more. And I think that's the beauty of the game. We talk about it as being a results business, and you have to acknowledge that, and it is. But I think if you have to grow anything and develop anything, you have to see that there's a process, there's a performance element that has to continue to improve, because that's ultimately how I think you can get long-term results and sustainable long-term results that are maybe better than what you think you can get.
Well, on this point, Graham, we had Dan Ashworth, your technical director, on the Coach's Voice recently. And he said this: we need Graham to be bold with giving young players a chance to thrive and space and time to survive. We are very fortunate that he does that. How central is this element of it, the blooding young players, developing young players, to your belief in building that long-term and sustainable success at a football club that we've talked about?
I think it's very important, and it's also important to us as a club. You know, some part of what Tony mentioned to me in terms of at the start of the project, it's like we invest a lot in our academy. We want to try and provide a pathway for that. And I suppose from a cultural perspective, it's nice to have players that understand the local community, that understand the club, that are desperate to do well for the club, that have some sort of connection emotionally with it. I think that's got to be beneficial. You know, young players are often very coachable, but at the same time, they're also a bit vulnerable to the suffering that can happen in the Premier League in terms of results and defeats. So it's a bit of an up and down journey, but incredibly rewarding. And I think the easier bit is to take the 28-year-old proven Premier League player, but there's a cost to that. And if we want to try and be that 5% that breaks the system in terms of finances, then how we can do that is by playing a Rob Sanchez, by giving him the opportunity to play, by hopefully then watching him develop so he can play for Spain or, you know, anything like that. And that's so there's quite a few levels to it, I think. And ultimately we believe that there's a chance that if we do it right, that's how we can grow as a club.
Very interesting that you talk about the players and the emotions that they experience, Graham. And I'm guessing the fans are quite similar in that sense. So they're going like this through Brighton's season. And I observe you very closely. That's, of course, a part of my job. And I see you pre-match, post-match, during games, generally, pretty much like that. Calm through the middle. How do you manage to, most of the time, how do you manage to do that? Because I think that's a real rare quality in football, especially at the highest level.
Well, I suppose practice. I've been doing this job for 15 years now, so I've had the experience of sometimes overstepping and sometimes, you know, that type of stuff. So I understand myself a bit better. So I know that to avoid certain situations, to try to stay calm, because we know football's an emotional game and you respond, and it's a roller coaster. And I'm not sure that is that helpful to me as a person to be on that. At the same time, I'm dealing with all the emotion. I'm just like everybody else. When we lose, it's painful. It's horrible. And when we win, it's fantastic. But to try to be helpful to the group and to be consistent, I think you need to be that, so that the players don't get on the rock and roll journey of wins and losses. It's about consistently trying to improve every day, regardless of the results. Try to improve every day. Obviously, it helps, I think, if I'm at least acting in that way.
I want to pick up on just one or two more points, Graham, before we take some questions from our viewers today. You've mentioned relationships with players a couple of times. I just wonder if you feel that element has changed since your own playing days, or whether the relationship between the head coach and the players now is different to as it was then.
I'm not sure. I wouldn't like to generalise. I mean, I had an experience in Sweden, which is a far more, I would say, flatter in terms of organisation around leadership. So, as the coach in England, I suppose there's a hierarchy. You're the coach, you're the gaffer, and then there's the players. Whereas I think in Sweden, it's a lot. It's you're on the same level. So, I've had 7 years of that, and from my perspective, I'm not above the players. I'm there with them, and we're a team together, and I'm there to help them. I understand that I have to pick the team and I have to take responsibility for that and make those choices. But fundamentally, we're all the same, and therefore, it's about building relationships. It's about understanding each other more and more. How that I can help them. How can I align what they want to do out their career with what we're trying to do here? And unfortunately, or fortunately, that takes time. You know, that's a coaching process that takes time. And but if you give it that time, I think relationships get better and stronger, and you understand each other more, and they become richer, and hopefully then you can get more out of people because they trust and believe and buy into what you're doing.
So we are 2 days away from the end of what's been a long season. And, you made the point, this has been a season and a half, really, without too much of a break. So what does the off season look like for you now? Is there a chance to completely escape and unwind? And is that an important element? Or do you want to continue learning, improving and finding ways to get better? Or is there room for both?
I think there is, but I think you need to as I've got older, I realised that football is it's an intensity sport. So you have to take your time to recover. You have to take your time to rest. You have to take your time to look after yourself, because in the last 3 years, I've moved from Sweden to Wales, then to Brighton. I've lost both my parents, dealing with a global pandemic, 2 Premier League seasons, football, losses, wins, roller coaster. So in the end, as a human being, you have to recognise that there's a time where you need to recharge, because otherwise it's impossible. So I think I need a couple of weeks for that, definitely. The problem is I've got twins that are 5 years old, so that's not so simple. So I'll have to be creative with that. But definitely I need some time with them and some family, and then I think as you start that recovery process, you start to then thinking in a good way, in a better way, in a clearer way, outside of the fighting of points and the hassle of doing press conferences and all this sort of stuff. You're in a bit more of a human space where you can then analyze everything clearer, and I think that's more beneficial. So understanding when to take a break, I think is really important.